I borrowed her lip gloss. Now the whole class calls me pretty. My name is Daniel Carter, and until a few weeks ago, I was the kind of guy no one really noticed. Not invisible, exactly, just background noise. The kind of student who blended in during group projects, sat in the middle rows where teachers rarely called on anyone, and wore the same neutral hoodies that looked like every other hoodie in the room. On paper, I was ordinary. I lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood, attended a perfectly average high school, and spent most evenings playing games online or texting my girlfriend, Camila. But underneath the plain exterior, there was something I hadn't admitted to anyone, not to Camila, not to my parents, and not even to myself in clear words. I was curious. Curious about what it felt like to look different. To look beautiful, even if just for a second. It had started years ago in small, secret ways. When my mom left her makeup bag in the bathroom, I sometimes lingered a little too long, staring at the lipsticks, powders, and brushes. The colors fascinated me, the way a simple shade could change someone's whole mood. But I never dared touch anything. I'd scold myself, shake the thought away, and retreat back into my carefully ordinary role as just Daniel. Camila was the only person who made me feel like I was more than a placeholder in the background. She had this confidence that seemed to ripple through everyone around her. She wasn't the loudest or the most popular girl in school, but she carried herself with a quiet assurance that made people listen. And somehow she chose me. We'd been dating for almost 6 months, and most of the time, it felt unreal. Camila was sweet but playful, always teasing me about how serious I looked when I was overthinking something. But lately, she had been distant, absorbed in her friends, her drama club rehearsals, and, of course, her ever-growing collection of makeup and fashion experiments. That was how I found myself standing in her bedroom one Friday afternoon, staring at her vanity. Camila had invited me over to study for an upcoming history test, but she had been called downstairs to help her mom with groceries. Alone in her room, I couldn't help noticing the neat row of cosmetics on her desk. Among them was a glittery pink tube of lip gloss, sparkling faintly in the sunlight that streamed through her curtains. It was such a simple thing. Just a tube of lip gloss. But for me, it felt like a dare. I told myself I'd just look closer, maybe twist the cap open and see what the brush looked like. But my hands moved on their own, and suddenly I was holding it, this tiny, harmless piece of Camila's world that I had no business touching. My reflection in her vanity mirror looked the same as always. Brown hair too stubborn to style, pale skin that made me look like I never saw the sun, and eyes that always carried the hint of exhaustion. What harm would it do, I thought, if I tried it just once? My heart pounded in my chest as I brushed the gloss across my lips. It was smooth, almost silky, and it smelled faintly of strawberries. I pressed my lips together and watched my reflection.
It was a small change.
Barely noticeable. And yet it wasn't. Something in my face softened, shimmered, and for the first time, I didn't just look like background noise. I looked different. Maybe even pretty. I didn't hear Camila come back upstairs. Daniel? Her voice cut through the silence, like a knife. I jumped so hard the lip gloss slipped from my hand, clattering onto the desk. Panic surged through me, my mind racing to form excuses, to wipe it off before she saw. But Camila was already standing in the doorway, grocery bag still in her arms, staring straight at me. For a second, her expression was unreadable. Then, slowly, a grin spread across her face. "Well," she said, stepping into the room, "aren't you full of surprises?" My face burned hotter than fire. I tried to stammer out something, anything, but the words tangled in my throat. Camila set the bag down, crossed her arms, and tilted her head. "You know," she said, her tone light but sharp with curiosity, "that shade actually looks really good on you. I wish the floor would swallow me whole." My secret, this small, harmless experiment, was no longer secret. Worse, Camila wasn't mocking me. She was interested. And that was the beginning. That single moment with a stolen lip gloss would spiral into something I never could have predicted. Within weeks, the whole class would know. And they wouldn't be calling me Daniel anymore. They'd be calling me pretty. Camila didn't laugh. That was the strangest part. If she had burst out giggling, teased me cruelly, or even looked disgusted, I would have known how to handle it. I could have brushed it off as a dumb joke, denied it, or hidden behind the wall of just messing around. But her grin wasn't mocking. It was curious. Almost approving. "Relax," she said, reaching past me to pick up the lip gloss I dropped. She twisted the cap shut, her eyes flicking to my mouth before settling back on me. "You don't have to look like I just caught you stealing state secrets. It's just lip gloss." Just lip gloss. My chest still hammered like I'd run a marathon. I mumbled something about being stupid, about it being an accident, but Camila only raised her brows. "An accident?" she echoed. "So, what? You tripped and it applied itself." I groaned, burying my face in my hands. "Camila, please." But she wasn't done. She set the gloss back on the vanity, then leaned against the desk, arms crossed. "You know, I've always wondered what you'd look like with a little styling. You're cute, Daniel, but you don't exactly put effort into your look." "I don't need to," I muttered, still trying to disappear into myself. "Exactly." She smirked. "Which is why this is so much fun." The word fun echoed in my head like a warning bell. Camila's version of fun usually meant I was about to be dragged into something completely out of my comfort zone. But this time, the stakes felt higher. Much higher. That night, after I left Camila's house, I couldn't stop replaying the moment in my head. The way the gloss shimmered under the light. The way Camila looked at me, not with disgust, but with a spark of something I couldn't quite name. Approval? Curiosity? Mischief? I told myself it would end there. Just one humiliating mistake, locked away forever. Except Camila wouldn't let it go. By Monday, she was at my locker, grinning like a cat with a secret. "Hey, pretty boy," she whispered, low enough so no one else could hear. I froze. "Don't call me that." "Why not? You looked good." Her grin widened when I glared at her. "Don't worry, your secret's safe with me." But it wasn't. Not really. Because every time she said something like that, I felt a strange tug in my chest. A mixture of fear and something else. Something dangerously close to excitement. Later that week, Camila invited me over again. Except this time, she didn't even pretend it was about studying. "So," she said, plopping a makeup bag onto her bed, "how about we try a little experiment?" Experiment. My voice cracked. "Don't look so scared." She laughed, tugging me toward the bed. "Just sit. You can say no if you really hate it, but I think you like this." I should have said no. I should have run. But instead, I sat, heart pounding, as Camila pulled out foundations, brushes, and palettes like a magician preparing for her biggest trick. Camila worked quickly, humming to herself as she dabbed at my face. The sensations were strange, soft bristles brushing across my skin, powders settling lightly on my cheeks, the tug of eyeliner at the corners of my eyes. "You have really nice lashes," she murmured, leaning closer. "Way longer than mine." "Don't say things like that," I muttered, but my voice lacked conviction. When she finally pulled back, I barely recognized the reflection staring at me. My features hadn't changed dramatically, but they looked different.
Softer.
Sharper in some ways, too. My eyes seemed brighter, my lips fuller. I didn't look like Daniel anymore, not exactly. Camila tilted her head, studying me.
"Wow.
"You're actually gorgeous." My stomach flipped. Gorgeous. No one had ever called me that before. Before I could respond, she was rummaging through her closet.
Hold on.
Makeup's only half the fun. Camila. But she was already tossing clothes onto the bed. A skirt.
A blouse.
Stockings. Things I had no business even touching, let alone wearing. "No way," I said, shaking my head. "Oh, come on. You've come this far." She held up the skirt with a wicked smile. "One outfit.
For me."
It was unfair, the way she said it. Like a challenge. Like she knew I couldn't refuse her. And maybe I couldn't. The clothes felt strange, alien against my skin. The skirt swished around my thighs in a way that made me hyper-aware of every movement. The stockings hugged my legs tighter, than I expected. When I finally turned back to the mirror, I didn't see Daniel at all. I saw someone else. Someone prettier. It should have felt humiliating.
Wrong.
But instead, there was a rush. A dangerous, addictive rush that made my pulse quicken and my stomach twist with butterflies. Camila clapped her hands together. Oh my God, you're perfect. I couldn't look away from the mirror. My reflection was both familiar and foreign, a version of myself I never thought I'd see. Stop staring, Camila teased, bumping my shoulder. You're going to start believing it. Believing what? That you're pretty. My throat tightened. Don't joke like that. I'm not joking. Her voice softened, and for a moment, the teasing was gone. You really are. The words lodged in my chest like a secret I couldn't swallow. That night, when I finally went home, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing that reflection in the mirror, the way Camila's eyes lit up, the way the clothes had felt against my skin. I told myself it was a one-time thing, that I'd never let it happen again. But deep down, I already knew I'd never forget it. Over the next week, Camila grew bolder. She'd whisper little comments when no one else was around. You'd look cute in that. Or, careful, pretty boy, your secret's showing. I lived in constant fear that someone would overhear, that she'd slip up and tell someone. But she never did. Instead, she started pushing me further. Let's do it again, she said one Friday after school. But this time, we'll try something new. Camila, I can't keep. You can. And you will. Her tone left no room for argument. And so I found myself once again in her room, once again staring into the mirror as my reflection shifted into something both terrifying and irresistible. But this time, there was a new danger. Halfway through, while Camila was curling a strand of my hair, we heard footsteps on the stairs. Her mom's voice called from below, cheerful and unsuspecting. Camila? Can you come down for a second? Panic surged through me. I wasn't just wearing makeup this time. I was in a wig, a dress, heels that made me wobble with every step. If her mom walked in, Camila pressed a finger to her lips. Stay here. She darted out, leaving me alone in her room. Every creak of the floorboards outside made my breath hitch. I couldn't move, couldn't even sit down, afraid the dress would wrinkle or the wig would slip. What if she came in? What if Camila slipped and said something? Every second stretched into eternity. My pulse thundered in my ears. Finally, Camila returned, closing the door quietly behind her. She smirked at my terrified expression. Relax. She didn't suspect a thing. I nearly collapsed in relief, my legs shaking. But beneath the fear, there was something else. A thrill. The closer I came to being caught, the more intoxicating it felt. By the time 2 weeks had passed, I wasn't the same Daniel anymore. At least, not when I was with Camila. At school, I still wore the same hoodies, slouched at my desk, and kept my head down. But after classes, when Camila tugged me toward her house, a different version of me came alive. A version wrapped in skirts, gloss, and a wig that shimmered under her bedroom light. And every time I told myself this is the last time, Camila found a way to break down my resistance. You don't see yourself, she would whisper, adjusting my hair in the mirror. But I do. You're stunning, Daniel. Stunning. Her words were poison and sugar at the same time. They made me feel alive and terrified, because I knew it couldn't last. Secrets had a way of spilling. And this one was a time bomb. It happened on a Tuesday morning. I was at my locker when Camila strolled up beside me, her lips glossed with the same pink shimmer she had once put on me. Without warning, she leaned close and whispered, "Pretty boy." The words sent a jolt of electricity down my spine. But she wasn't quiet enough this time. Jared, a guy from our math class, turned his head. "Pretty boy," he echoed with a laugh. "What's that about?" My face burned. "Nothing," I muttered quickly, slamming my locker shut. Camila only smirked, enjoying my panic far too much. "Inside joke," she said breezily, tugging me down the hall before Jared could ask more questions. But I knew how fast rumors spread in our school. And if even a sliver of truth leaked, I was finished. That Friday, Camila decided to push me further than ever before. "You're too nervous," she said, tossing a dress onto her bed. "You think everyone can see right through you. So let's test it."
Test it.
My stomach sank.
Yeah.
"Let's see if you can pass." The word hit me like a thunderclap.
Pass.
As if I wasn't just a guy in borrowed clothes, but someone who could slip unnoticed into another role. Before I could protest, Camila had me dressed. The wig sat snug on my head, long dark strands brushing against my cheeks. The dress hugged me tighter than I liked to admit. And once the gloss was smoothed over my lips, I hardly recognized myself. "This is insane," I whispered. "This is fun," she corrected, tugging me toward the window. "Come on." My pulse rocketed when I realized what she meant. Not just her house. Not just the safety of her room. She wanted me outside. "No way, Camila, no way." She squeezed my hand. "Just a walk around the block. No one will know. Trust me." Trust her. The words felt like a trap, but the gleam in her eyes was impossible to resist. And so, trembling, I let her lead me out the door. The cool evening air hit my bare legs, making me shiver. Every step felt like walking on glass. I tugged at the hem of the dress, praying it wasn't too short, praying no one looked too closely. "Relax," Camila whispered, linking her arm with mine. "You look amazing." I tried to breathe, tried to convince myself that no one would notice, that I was just another girl walking with her friend. But halfway down the street, disaster struck. "Hey, Camila." We both froze. My heart nearly stopped. It was Marcus, a guy from our English class, waving from his front yard. He jogged toward us, smiling. Panic surged through me. If he looked closely, if he saw through the makeup. Hey Marcus," Camila said, her tone casual. "We were just heading to the store." Marcus's eyes flicked to me. He smiled politely. "Don't think we've met." "You're?" My throat went dry. No words came. I couldn't speak without giving myself away. Camila stepped in smoothly. "This is Danny," she said with a wink only I could see. "She's my cousin, visiting for a bit."
Danny.
The name echoed in my head like a brand. Marcus grinned. "Nice to meet you, Danny." "Camila, you didn't say your cousin was so pretty."
Pretty.
The words slammed into me like a shockwave. My face heated, though I prayed he'd mistake it for makeup blush. Camila tugged my arm. "Thanks, Marcus. We gotta run." And before I could collapse from sheer panic, she pulled me away, her laughter bubbling in my ear. "See?" she whispered once we turned the corner. "You passed." I wanted to be furious. I wanted to shout at her for putting me in that position. But all I could think about was Marcus's words.
Pretty.
That night, alone in my room, I couldn't sleep. I replayed Marcus's face, his easy smile, the way he had accepted me without a hint of suspicion. He hadn't seen Daniel. He had seen Danny. And for the first time, I realized something terrifying.
Part of me wanted that.
Not just in Camila's room.
Not just as a game.
I wanted to know what it felt like to live as her, even for a little while, to see how far I could go. But with every new step, the risk grew sharper. If my classmates found out, if Camila slipped even once, everything would unravel. And yet, I couldn't stop. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. Camila had grown bolder, suggesting we take pictures. Just for us, she promised. Against my better judgment, I agreed. But secrets have a way of leaking. The next morning, I walked into school to whispers. Laughter. Stares. It felt like the walls were closing in. Jared snickered as I passed. "Hey, pretty boy. Nice lips." My stomach dropped. Camila found me before class, her face pale. "Daniel, something happened." She held out her phone. My blood ran cold. It was me. Lip gloss shimmering. Wig framing my face. Looking every bit the girl Camila had made me into.
Posted. Public.
And the caption burned into my eyes. "New girl at school? Isn't she pretty?" The photo had already spread. Everyone had seen. Everyone knew.
The halls felt different that day.
Every laugh I heard twisted in my stomach. Every sideways glance burned like fire. My feet dragged as I walked, each step heavier than the last. By lunchtime, the whispers had sharpened into words. Did you see the post? Who even is that? Is that Daniel?
No way.
Look at those lips. That's a girl. Camila's cousin, maybe? Or wait. My tray rattled in my hands. I wanted to run, but running would be an admission. So I forced myself to sit, forced myself to swallow the lump in my throat while pretending I didn't hear. Camila slid into the seat across from me. Her smile was thin, brittle. Daniel. My voice shook. You said those pictures were just for us. I didn't post them. She looked panicked, eyes darting. I swear I didn't. Someone must have. Then who did? I hissed, louder than I intended. A few heads turned. Heat flushed my neck. Camila leaned closer, her voice low. I don't know. Maybe my phone synced something? Maybe. I shoved back my chair, unable to breathe. The cafeteria was closing in, every voice louder, every whisper sharper. Pretty boy. Pretty lips. Pretty. I fled. I didn't stop until I found an empty classroom. My hands shook as I locked the door behind me, my reflection caught in the darkened window. The gloss, the wig, the skirt, all of it flashed before my eyes. Danny stared back at me, taunting me. I had thought she was safe, hidden away in Camila's room. Now she was everywhere, exposed. My phone buzzed with notifications. Messages.
Tags.
Comments. Some cruel. Some curious. A few complimentary. Wow, didn't know Daniel could look this good. Is this real? She's kinda hot. Wait, is that actually him? Or her? I wanted to throw the phone across the room. Instead, I sank into a chair, burying my face in my hands. The door creaked. I looked up, startled. Camila slipped in, closing it behind her. Daniel.
Don't, I snapped.
My voice cracked. This is your fault. Her eyes shimmered, guilt written across her face. I didn't mean for this to happen. I thought it was just between us. Well, it's not anymore. I shot back, standing so quickly the chair scraped against the floor. The whole school knows. They're all laughing at me. They're not all laughing, she interrupted softly. I froze. Camila stepped closer, her hand tentative as if she wasn't sure I'd let her touch me. Some of them, they think you look amazing. They think you're beautiful. The words cut deep. Not because they were cruel, but because part of me wanted to believe them.
Part of me liked them.
I shook my head violently. I can't, Camila. I can't do this. She bit her lip. Daniel or Danny. Maybe you don't have to hide anymore. The name on her tongue made me flinch.
Danny. The name Marcus had believed.
The name that had slipped into my dreams at night. But now it wasn't a game. It was a reality I hadn't chosen. The bell rang, echoing down the halls. Students would be flooding past soon. I couldn't stay in here. Couldn't hide forever. Camila's hand brushed mine. Whatever happens, you're not alone. Okay. But the truth was, I had never felt more alone. The voices outside the door grew louder. Footsteps, chatter, laughter. My pulse hammered. If I walked out there, what would happen? Would they laugh? Would they mock me? Would someone look at me differently? I hovered at the door, my hand on the knob, my breath shallow. Camila's voice was barely a whisper. They already saw you, Daniel. Or Danny. The only question is, who do you want to be when you walk out? The knob turned in my hand. The door creaked open. Dozens of faces turned toward me in the hallway. For one suspended moment, silence fell. Then, "Hey, pretty boy," someone called. "Danny," another voice shouted. "Wow," a girl whispered. The noise surged around me, laughter and whispers and gasps colliding into a storm. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst. I stepped forward, caught between two worlds, Daniel and Danny, mocked and admired, exposed and alive. And I didn't know which world I belonged to anymore.